you imagine Tucker in an impreg yaoi? Am I wrong for saying that? Is that Irene unfiltered?
Huh?
You're sipping your latte, dude. You're not on their side, you fake mother... Laughing so he doesn't have to cry. Why am I even doing this to myself? Oh my god. Anybody need their Tipusa 8? Like, what does an audience full of 17-year-olds do, like, when they hear trap? Like, you know what I'm saying? It just seems like a complete swing and a miss. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not college kids out there.
My glass on it. I cannot see where you are, but I'm really glad to be in the same room with you. I can feel you, not to be
You can feel their presence.
too groovy about it, so thanks. I don't travel very much, and I never give speeches, and I'm only here for one reason, and that's because, and this is as sincere as I can be, I've been watching Charlie Kirk carefully for about maybe 8 or 9 years since one of the early supporters of Turning Point came to me and said, there's this guy I'm supporting, he's a really bright young kid, and of course I'm skeptical because I'm against young people, so I said, totally kidding, but I said, you know, who is he? And he goes, well, he never went to college. So immediately I'm on his side, like 100%. And I said, well, he sounds pretty great. So I have my eye on Charlie Kirk. And, you know, he's saying things that I completely agree with, of course.
Of course. Why wouldn't you agree with things like this?
Mainstream kind of conservative person.
Oh my god, I'm reading the chat. Tucker Rail Me Challenge. Seriously, chat, I kid you not. Tucker Rail Me Challenge.
And have been my whole life. And then about 2 years ago, everything in the physical world, in the real world, which is to say distinct from the nonprofit, let's talk about how things should be world, completely changes, which is to say the country completely changes. And no one notices in the world that I live in. Like it's 2003 and full speed ahead.
There's this drip the Koch brothers. Oh my god, there's some trolls in here. There's this drip the Koch brothers are pushing to AstroTurf, a phony conservative youth group. Send him in.
And I look
The storm is coming.
over and I can see on Charlie Kirk's face that he kind of notices. This is not exactly
Tucker is January 6th.
the same as it was last year. This is like completely different in some of the things we
Been hospitalized 13 times since the jab in June. 2 brain tumor. What? 2 brain tumor. Okay, that's a troll.
expected to happen.
They're getting trolled.
It didn't happen. It didn't change his core beliefs.
I miss
He's still
Trump,
completely
American
for
flag.
freedom, most
Oh my
importantly for the country,
god.
for the family,
This
the
chat is so
bedrock
great.
Things
I miss
can never be
Trump.
against. But he looks around and he's
Same.
like, maybe we should acknowledge the reality of the country now.
Yeah.
Get rid of, not all, but maybe some of the
Carlson is so smart and hot. Fire, 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 fire emoji.
bumper stickers we used to use, and think about how to respond to what's actually happening. Now that seems like kind of the basic.
Wait a minute. There is one account, chat. There is one account in there. And I'm noticing they're typing in all caps. Chat. Chat. Are you pondering what I'm pondering, chat? Are you pondering what I'm pondering? It's almost like that person was stuck in all caps. Like, let's say that they used a keyboard that was dedicated to a certain task, say, editing Lauren Southern's VODs, right? And for some reason, that task required caps locks to be engaged at all times. Chat, who do you think is in there? Typing in all caps. Like, look. I'll read their name, okay? And tell me if you think you might know the sussy baka. Lauren Bigot Bimbo. Their name is Lauren Bigot Bimbo, okay? And they're typing in chat. It's just a theory. It's a game theory, but a theory nonetheless.
Requirement for adulthood in this country, no? Yes. But that's so far beyond so many people I know.
Sussy Banaka.
It was like really unusual. And I thought, I'm very impressed by that. I'm very impressed by someone who's willing to notice the change and respond to it. So I'm completely on the side of Charlie Kirk. I think he's really impressive, and I'm here to say that.
He's so impressive.
So here's the
I'm
other
impressed.
thing.
Color me impressed.
Thank you.
Hey,
so
Amaro.
here's the other thing I'm here to say. So I host the world's grimmest
Wow,
TV
nice,
show.
nice zoom.
Which really is an unending litany of how horrible things are, and more precisely how horrible the people running things are, which honestly you can't, as I often say to my wife, you really can't overstate. You could do 2 hours a night and still not plumb the depths of their horribleness. And that's exactly what I'm here to say.
Wait, do you want to plumb the depths of my horribleness, Tucker? Is that what you came here to say? Do you want to plumb the depths of my horribleness?
So there's a man in the front who just said, but there's a lot of good too.
With your depth finder?
And that is right. So here's the one thing. So I never have time to think because, I've got to write the script and, we have to do the job every day. So I fly across the country and I have a little bit of time to think, and I'm thinking to myself, this really is the low point. It's got to be the low point. After which we have the rise, where it starts to get better. And this is not, so that's in part a physics principle. In the famous words, like the smartest thing ever said in Washington was said by one of Richard Nixon's advisors, who said, if something can't continue forever, it won't. And I do kind of believe that. But when something is completely
So what about Turning Point USA?
Insane and counterproductive.
Or will they just keep getting money from billionaires?
When it doesn't even...
Like when an organization that's meant for college kids doesn't have any... only has like less than 2% of its membership is under 70?
Benefit the people pushing it, it probably can't continue. And let me just say one other thing that dawned on me this morning. So I'm a pretty milquetoast Episcopalian, so sometimes I miss the larger implications of things. But
how do those things go together? Okay, I buy milquetoast Episcopalian, I guess. It's not the most, maybe it's not the most exciting of religions, I guess, right? Okay, milquetoast Episcopalian, but missing the larger pattern? What? Does that make sense, even?
the things that are going on now are so crazy. And they're so disconnected. So normally, I was in Washington most of my life.
Okay, the idea being that this is a conspiracy theory, and most of the time, an Episcopalian wouldn't be predisposed to such a thing. But he's pilled. I guess he's pilled.
And something that I didn't like would happen, and you would say, well, that's because they've got a ton of Pfizer stock, or they're taking money from this or that lobbyist, or they've just got bad ideas. Things are happening right now that can't be explained by the normal explanation. There's just absolutely no rational explanation for it. People are standing up and saying, let's get rid of the cops, because I...
Isn't it literally the Catholic Church that broke away from the Catholic Church during Henry VIII when he wanted to get divorced? Isn't that literally what the Episcopalian's faith's whole reason for being is to let Henry VIII remarry?
That's going to make things better. There's not one person who, upon 15 seconds of reflection, thinks that's going to help anybody. Not one person. So why would you say that? Well, there's only one reason to say that, and that's to destroy things for its own sake. Now, you don't often see that. You see a lot of wrong-headedness, you see bad ideas, you see people who are corrupt, some kind of scam.
Wrong-headedness? Are we talking about Charlie Kirk again?
Going on underneath.
Are we talking about Charlie Kirk again?
Or whatever.
Oh, that's the Anglican. Wait, doesn't the Episcopalian have something to do with the Anglican Church? Or am I wrong? I thought it would have had something to do with, the two had...
You think it's politics, it's actually Vegas. Okay, got it. But what? Vegas, baby. So I'll see you at the Spearmint Rhino. So, totally kidding, obviously. But anyway, sorry, I shouldn't say stuff like that. I can't control myself. Limited self-control. So, what you don't see too much, in fact, I have never seen, is people wrecking stuff for the sake of wrecking stuff. Even their own stuff. So what is that? There's nothing in politics, there's nothing in reason, there's nothing within our recent human experience that can explain that.
Yeah.
So if you're a rational person, you don't even need to be a religious person. You have to conclude there is something that is unseen at work here. There is a spiritual dimension to this. I'm sorry, there just is. I don't care if I sound like... I don't see how...
Wait, they wanted to split from Catholicism, but not become the Church of England. Basically liberals. He's trying to act unfiltered like Trump.
Any rational person couldn't conclude that. If people are standing up and saying, let's burn my own house down, let's do it immediately, they are seized by something. They are. By a spirit of destruction.
Satan?
And that's just true. I don't know if that'd be...
That's just true. That's just true.
Church, but I don't care.
I don't care if my fellow Episcopals hate me for that.
I'm out.
That's just true. I'm out.
So, I would say, before I outline why I think things might be about to improve, let me just say that's the framework to understand it. It's not the normal sort of, I'm watching the back stuff and I'm truly horrified by it on a real level. And I'm totally intolerant because it's too much.
They're not going to do quite as well as they think in the midterms.
Nobody wants to say this, but, obviously it's class war against the weakest people. In the end, only Salvadoran busboys will have masks on, because the peasants can't look at their leaders. Like, that's what it's actually about. And the vax stuff is about punishing people who have no one to protect them. That's the truth, okay? And I'm completely sick of it. And I'm going to soon be selling mugs that say naturally immune. Because if you're naturally immune, you earned it. And
you earned it, yeah,
I mean that. And
you're
if
trying
you
to make a
earned
virtue
it,
of
and I know some of
being a
the room
public health risk.
you earned it. And some people really earned it at high cost. And you should be proud of it. And you shouldn't let anybody make you feel bad about it, boss you around about it, make you do anything you don't want to do. So I look at that, I'm like, what is this? You're telling 5-year-olds to get, to get this drug?
You might be right, Middle Earth Marxists. They do seem to like to lose. They're paid losers.
That's demonstrably true, but there's something else. It's evil. That is evil. Let's just say it. It's evil. So the other dynamic that's going on is that the decisions are being made by people who are too far from the effects of the decisions. And as someone who had it beaten into him, and it's my temperament anyway, to really revere older people, I have trouble making fun, I'll be honest, of Joe Biden's mental decline, because I feel guilty about it. Because I hope I'm 80 someday. I don't want people mocking me when I can't. You know what I mean? I want my children to respect me. And very gently, wipe the frosted flakes from my chin.
Well, they're going to be wiping
and tell me
something.
that I make
Tucker.
sense.
They're going to be wiping
me for my wisdom when I can't remember what I'm saying.
Hey, Jenny.
I think all of us who make it to that age deserve to be treated with respect.
Very gently wiped.
If for no other reason that we made it. You make it to 80, you look around, a lot of the people who you began with are not there anymore. You're in a small percentage who made it, and I respect that. I do. It's like climbing Everest. Like, not all the Sherpas made it to the top, but you did. So that is my default position. But I also feel like, because it's true, and it's true of every society, that the single most important task is to raise up people to replace you. That's why you have children. So your family continues after you die. That's the whole point. That's the point in the natural world. Animals don't question this. They're not anxious. They don't think it's better to work at Citibank than to have kids. It's not even a thing. That's never occurred to my 4 dogs. They're like, I'm not really sure if I should reproduce. I could make vice president. Like, I got to meet with HR, but we'll see how it works. But no, they're just like, I'm not going to get more specific
I
with
noticed
their dogs.
that. Yeah.
And we're animals is that what too. He said? And that's our most basic desire, is to leave something behind.
Well, animals
is to
always
live forever in a better place in the afterlife,
but
to have our family continue.
My cat always leaves things behind for me in the litter box.
Our children, our grandchildren, our people, our blood continuing. There's nothing wrong with that. Every human wants that. That's the most basic thing to want, okay?
Then why do you have to tell people to want it? Then why do you have to remind people to want it?
I'm Mr. Parenthetical. I speak only in parentheticals, like pause. Oh, here's another point. Can't control myself. The other point is, that's so obviously true that it kind of makes you wonder why no one ever mentions it. So the big questions in a country, if you're running a country, you have to answer 3 or 4 big questions before you proceed. And they're the most obvious ones, like, do we have enough food? Hey, clean water, got that? Can we defend ourselves? Keep the invaders out? Do we have enough energy? Like, how are we going to stay warm this winter and make things? Energy. So those are the most basic questions any society asks. The Romans asked it. Every society from then till now has asked those questions because they're the ones that matter. If you live in a place where no one asks any of those questions, something's gone wrong. If we're arguing about pregnancy flight suits instead, maybe that, which we are, because that's what they're interested in, maybe there's some denial in progress. And on the individual level, the questions that really matter: how are my children? Are they happy? Are they thriving? Are they independent of me? Which is the point of parenthood, to make your children independent. That's the point.
Wait.
Are they all of those things? Will they find a mate so they can do what I did to create them in the first place, which is reproduce?
If the children are independent, then why doesn't Turning Point USA respect the autonomy of college students? Why do you feel it necessary to cram your bullshit down their throats? Right? Why do you feel it necessary to try to prevent people from becoming less ignorant?
And continue my family after I die, as noted.
Tucker commands it.
And the last question is, by the way, die, I'm going to die. What happens then? So those are the...
Jesus comes down to earth, and you rise up out of the grave, and then you ride on Jesus's back. He becomes like a dragon. He's like the dragon from Neverending Story. You ride Jesus up to heaven, you're like, whee! And then you get there, and God's like, worship me. Worship me. He's like the neediest God ever. He doesn't respect your autonomy. He doesn't respect your autonomy. No, God doesn't care. God needs you to worship him.
Questions. Those are the questions that have transfixed every society from the moment we left caves, and probably even before.
Some of us seem to have not left the allegory of the cave.
So if you suddenly wake up in a place where no one even mentions any of that, like at all, and people are telling you the coronavirus is the most important thing.
The coronavirus? What's that? Oh my God.
To happen in history? No, it's not.
Ride the Jesus dragon to heaven, yeah.
The only reason it's
I would definitely just subscribe to the Gospel of Maya. Oh my God, you're not the only one, but they would totally call it a cult.
a world historic event is because of our
overreaction
to it. Period. Okay? What really matters is how's your family? Boo, boo, boo. That's true. What matters is your family, your children, continuing your family after you're gone, and what happens when you're gone. Like, those are the core questions. And if you haven't even addressed those, you're a fool. So I just think it's very weird that it's almost by design that we are prevented from even asking those questions or thinking about.
Prevented for asking questions like what happens after you die by the fact that no one's ever come back to tell us. Yes, Tucker, that's true.
Them deeply, and I will give a piece of unsolicited advice because I do have so many children. That's kind of what I do for a living. Which
have children for a living?
Fight back against that a little bit. It's impossible to take yourself.
Can you imagine Tucker in an impreg, Yowie? Am I wrong? Am I bad for saying that? Is that Irene unfiltered?
Out of the society, unless you're going full Unabomber, which you probably shouldn't do. Certainly not the violence part, but you know, there's a cost to living alone in an off-grid Montana cabin, though it does appeal to me. And probably to others. You go off-grid Montana cabin, people. Yes, I'm on your side. I actually am on your side. I was thinking...
You're not. You're sipping your latte, dude. You're not on their side, you fake motherfucker.
This morning when I was flying in, I was staring out the window like a dog of the plane and like watching my country go, you know, beneath me.
It's supposed to be the end of days part of the gospel.
40,000 feet below, and I'm like, this is an amazingly beautiful country. What sane person would choose to live, and let's do top end, $30 million, 16th floor apartment in a crowded city over a log cabin in a pine forest with the wood stove glowing as the snow falls? Like, what if that was an actual choice that you were presented, would you hesitate? Of course not. So I guess the larger point is, our basic human desires are not being met by the systems that have been created. Probably a lot of reasons for that. I'm not even going to speculate. I'm just saying, I'm looking around, I'm like, this isn't working. People aren't getting what they need. Their questions aren't being answered. The meaning is
a Republican log
being
cabin
stripped from their lives. What's the point of all of this? Oh, more Amazon deliveries. No, not the point. So that's bad.
I mean, you'd be depending on those Amazon deliveries out there.
And it's not sustainable. That's the point. Before I explain that, let me just say...
No, wait. What's not sustainable? Sprawl. Cities are much more sustainable, Tucker, right? And the only reason they're hellscapes is because the rich have made it impossible for anyone else to live there.
Fight back a little bit by trying to turn down the noise just for like a half hour a day. Start there. It's almost like a religious exercise. I take a sauna every day and sit alone in the...
He's a man of the people. What can I say? He is a man of the people.
Hot wood room.
I sit in my hot wood room.
And just try and listen. Mostly I hear nothing other than the buzz of the sauna heater. But there are other days when you hear a lot. And if you get out of the habit of listening, and by listening I just mean being quiet, and turning off the crap that's coming over your phone and begging you to turn away from the things that actually matter. It's not, you don't have to become a monk or anything. You can still engage in the world. It's actually pretty low cost. But just like take a minute to be quiet and to listen for what you hear.
Is he telling people to meditate?
And it's amazing. I mean,
this is some Jordan Peterson shit right here.
I can't believe anyone would take spiritual advice from me. I'm the last person. But it's just...
I'm out of the rich, white, cis-het, Anglo-Saxon male people who can afford to put a fucking sauna in their house. Jesus Christ, my dude.
True. It's absolutely true. If you're just quiet for just a minute, things sort them out a little bit. And you begin to realize that, like, Twitter's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. The farther you get away from the noise, the more clearly you see it. And the more obvious it is that, not all of it, but like a lot of it's like purely manufactured, so you won't notice how horrible it is. So you'll want to be the vice president at Citibank, or you'd be like totally thrilled with your 16th floor apartment in some crumbling metroplex. Huh? Who actually wants that? Nobody really wants that. But it's only until you step away a little bit that you realize that that's not what you want. Those are not your heart's desires. Those aren't natural desires. Those are manufactured desires. So here's why I think things are going to get better. I think that,
you can have your own sauna. It's pretty low cost. Just have your dad marry an heiress and work hard.
I have lots of deeply original opinions, like Corona's been bad. Let that settle, okay? I'm going to break a little new ground here, kind of known for my bravery, so let me just say I don't think we responded well. Okay.
He does seem like he's doing a Trump. He does seem like he's got a little Trump in him, doesn't he?
Okay. Obviously.
He finally read the first three chapters of Capitalist Realism.
It was a disaster. It was a complete disaster, and I'm not going to, catalog the many ways in which it was a disaster because we're all living with them, and we saw a lot of really wonderful parts of our society just evaporate, and they're gone. And they're
fuck those poor in their cities,
back, and it's a tough thing to face, especially if you remember a different country that wasn't as chaotic and was just a pretty nice country, actually. No better, for sure, no better. That's the one thing you learn when you travel. So that's really sad. But, everything in life...
Is he going to be talking about Sweden?
...is a mixed blessing. And people who claim otherwise, either the doomsayers or the used car salesmen, they're both lying. Like, everything in the temporal world is a mixed blessing. If you wake up one morning and something is all good, you're dead. You've gone to a better place. No, I'm serious. Like, that's always a lie. Oh, it's going to be all good. We just need to protect the borders of eastern Ukraine. And then we're done. Okay. Might there be some unintended consequences of threatening the use of nuclear weapons? I'm just guessing. No, none. Got to. Okay, good. You sound like a wise leader. So anyway, everything is a mixed blessing. It's good and bad. It's bound up together in a way that's kind of hard to separate. But here's one good thing about Corona, in my opinion. The freedom that it gives younger people who really have just been completely screwed out of their country in a way that's very upsetting to me as the father of young people. The freedom that it gives them, at least potentially, to opt out and remain beneficiaries of the society. In other words, you can still produce things, you can still participate, you can still use the gifts that you were born with to make the society better. You don't have to live totally off-grid. You don't have to go, full crazy, hermit. But you don't have to participate in the systems that really are, it's not an overstatement, oppressing people, making them sad, stripping the meaning from their lives, hurting them, bossing them around, humiliating them on purpose. Hey, 50-year-old nurse, get the shot.
Father of kids who will also inherit millions. I'm very worried about their future.
Who just spent 2 years helping corona patients, who knows more about medicine than Joe Biden ever will. You're going to get fired because somehow some 79-year-old elected official knows more about science than a frontline nurse? Tell me how that works exactly. Speak slowly so I can understand. That's oppression. That's humiliation. No one's helped by that. The only point of that is to let you know who's in charge.
Okay, so here's what sucks here, okay? The Democrats, first of all right? For allowing this bastard to get on their left, or at least agitate, at least flex, at least front that he is, for some kind of a some kind of reform, some kind of a scaled back version of capitalism, right? The only thing that lets him do that is these fucking shit Democrats. They suck so fucking bad. Joe Manchin.
And to let you know that...
Like, this is what makes... Like, Joe Biden, fucking shit, dude. For where have you been on student loans? Like, right? This is the only reason they're able to do this. Is because the Democrats are fucking cowards. And they are bought. And they are paid fucking losers. This makes me so sick.
And that your job is to obey. It's not your country. Can I just ask, what do you think people would...
I mean, don't get me wrong, chat. He's not serious. He's not serious. He's not serious. He's not, like, to the left economically or anything else. He is full of shit. But the fact that he can even do this is an effect of how fucking bought the Democratic Party is.
Have thought in, like, 1905 of how we've responded to January 6th. 1905, Teddy Roosevelt was president, okay? Most popular president we ever had. Polling was young. We're kind of guessing, but I think it's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear, but we have no idea what we're talking about, but it's pretty clear. Okay.
Teddy Roosevelt was the most popular president.
Okay.
Youngest president we ever had. President was killed. He was VP, becomes president, serves out the whole term, elected to another. It's an amazing human being.
Merry Christmas. The just flushed away the
1905, after the election, Teddy Roosevelt's like, well, I kind of want to meet some voters. So he walks out to the lawn in front of his house.
Yeah, just like Fauci knows more about medicine than Charlie
Kirk. White House. And he says, I'd kind of like to talk to anyone, because it's my house, but, it's also your house because it's your country. And everyone, who wants to talk about it can amble up on the lawn and we'll talk. And he stood there and talked to them. And that was not considered weird. And this guy was in office because his predecessor had been assassinated. So it wasn't like this was a time without violence. There was definitely violence. He was killed by an anarchist, a lunatic. So Teddy Roosevelt knew perfectly well the costs of opening himself up to the public. He was a very brave person. He had great physical courage personally. But he also didn't have much of a choice because it wasn't his house. It belonged to the people to whom the country belongs. And those are American citizens. So imagine telling someone living in that country, we just arrested people for walking down the hall in the Capitol building. I mean,
when was fucking Roosevelt president, chat? Because, like, I'm trying to think who was Wilson that was president during the Spanish flu, right? Because, like, I mean, they took some pretty severe steps. Like, there were definitely mandatory masks and, like, in the 1918 flu.
The people who broke the windows, the people who literally walked down the hall of the Capitol, and there are a lot of them who got arrested, like, a lot of them. Of course, free them. But also, pause for a minute and ask yourself, like, what the hell? If you had said that to someone in 1905, they said, well, yeah, it's their building, it's their capital, it's their country, they're American citizens. Who do you think owns it? What? Like, that's
fake-ass populist bitch.
Insane! So the assumptions have really changed, and unfortunately, and this is like, I would say 80% of my job, and luckily I'm old enough it's pretty easy, is just to mark the passage of time and the change in attitudes so we all remember it actually didn't used to work this way at all. Like, this wasn't how things were done. This is not what we believed. This kind of wasn't what we signed up for. This is all brand new. And I don't care how many fake New York Times histories of America you write. I was there for a lot of it. This is nonsense. This is not true. This is a big change. And by the way, we'd never voted on it. So you just kind of imposed it. So if you're a young person...
Wait, do you want direct democracy? Is that what you're... You don't want direct democracy, dude. Like, if that was an option, you'd vote against it. You're scared of a direct democracy. Your party actively works to prevent the majority of the people from deciding shit, including the presidential election.
And you're very clearly being excluded from this world that is
yeah, I know,
built,
right?
to some extent at your expense. How do you respond? Well, here's the upside of Corona. The promise, and it is a reality for a lot of people, is that you actually don't have to live in the places where they control you the most precisely. And, you know, their methods of control are increasing. I mean, the problem with technology is that it empowers the government to keep track of you. Our government is so bloated, so inefficient, that in a perfect world you think, well, they're never going to find me to hassle me because they don't even come back from lunch until 3 o'clock. You know, these are people who are more likely to die in their job than be fired from their job. It's just so lame that actually they can't molest me. And that would be true except for technology, and that's true. And it empowers the completely inept. That's the truth of technology.
We may not be able to cut the mic, chat. I'm just saying that if somebody were to straddle his face, I think that we might be able to muffle him into silence, right? I think. You might have to kind of twist your legs a little bit, you know? But yeah, I think you could, like, get him to shut the fuck up.
It allows people who are both dumb and useless and take 4-hour lunch breaks to know where you are anyway. It makes it really easy to control you. And if you haven't received your text from the CDC haranguing you about your 9th ineffective vaccine, you probably will. So you kind of want to be as far away from that as you possibly can be. So
yeah.
As I'm watching all this happen, I'm really interested in where people live because I think it tells you a lot. Totally convinced that 95% of what people say is just made up. It's when you have kids, you'll know this, or if you have dogs, you'll learn it. No, it's true. They don't listen to you at all. They don't. They only watch what you do. They're not stupid. They don't believe, they don't watch my show. Okay, yeah, I got it. All right, okay. You're barking.
What was that? Was that some Jim Brewer antics?
And it doesn't matter to them. What they watch very carefully is what you do. What are you doing? And that's how you know. If you want to know what someone really loves, watch how he spends his time. You know what I mean? They can say they love you, but if they never come home, then how much do they love you?
What?
I mean, it's just true. I'm sorry. And so I'm really interested in where people move because you can say whatever you want, but moving is a big deal. I mean, you're moving into a new place. And the trend that I see is people are leaving the big and embracing the small. On both sides, but it's not even a partisan thing. It's like LA, Austin.
Austin is not exactly small. I don't know if does he know what he's talking about? It's not even that cheap.
Portland, Bozeman. New York, Burlington. Chicago, Naples. In every case, people are like, we have Chicago, Naples people here? Of course we do. They're everywhere. Yeah, baby. Get out fast. Why are they doing that? Because it's not working. And it's not working at the most basic level. Not only is it, dangerous and the stores are boarded up and like all the obvious signs of decline and ominous signs of decline, but at the most basic level, it's not working because there's no community. What's so interesting to me is as actual communities disappear, we hear the word community a lot more. Everything's a community. The black community, the trans community, Latino community, everyone's got a community. Well, okay. I'm listening to this. How are those different from voting blocks? Well, of course they're not. So as things disappear, people tend to kind of pretend that they're more common. So I'm listening to the black community. Well, there are 47 million African Americans in America. A community is people who know each other, and they're each created by God and different, because all people are different. They have different interests and desires and opinions. They're not faceless. None of us are faceless parts of a larger whole. We're not soldiers in anyone's political army.
Wait, that's what...
We're people.
You're at a Turning Point USA conference.
And...
You're AstroTurf.
As they...
Your face is covered in AstroTurf.
Talk about community, actual communities are being destroyed by them. So what's a community? I think it's like one of the most important things in life. A community is people you know. That's what a community is. They're people you actually know, not people you think about or look like or even agree with. It's people you talk to, whose faces you recognize. If someone you love dies, and you think, I really want to talk to someone, you don't call all 7,000 people in your college class. If they're not your friends, you don't have 7,000 friends in college. You had like 5 friends. And they're still your friends, And that's what you call them. That's called your community. It's the people you love, are responsible for, the people you really know. And so I feel like one of the results of all of this is that people know this in their bones. They know it intuitively. They need community. They need to live with other people and know them. Not talk about them, not G-chat or whatever. I'm so caught up. I hate that stuff so much. I don't even know what it's called.
Oh my God, no.
But whatever. Interact on the internet. That's not a community. That's an ersatz community. That's a substitute for community. It's a fake community. That's not
a fake community like Turning Point USA. Thanks, dude.
real.
Thanks.
So, and we can feel that it's not real because it doesn't.
You're saying this at the stage of an AstroTurf group, dude. It's not real. You're like the most unreal thing
Reward us
out here.
We're
and I'm sitting in front of a synthwave background, okay?
not elevated by it. You don't get, not that I've ever spent a night on the internet. Boy, that sounds creepy. And it sounds creepy because it is creepy, actually. It is creepy. I'm sorry. It is. But I don't think anyone's ever spent a night on the internet and come back and said, you know, I really feel like, really unburdened myself like they understood me. You know what I mean? Like, I am loved. I am loved by people I'm playing online games with in New Zealand. Like, they got my back. Right. No, they don't. You don't know them, actually, and you will never know them. You know the people who are right there with you. And so...
Or creepy. Yeah, it is late night for a lot of you.
I mean, for me, I think
like
of it in my mind anyway as the concentric circles theory of love and obligation. So all of us are born with obligations to the people around us. And I'm a conservative. I believe in the individual, but that does not mean I don't have obligations to other individuals. I don't mean...
Do people actually do sleep streams now? Like, I used to do that back in the day. Some of you might have seen one of my sleep streams. It was never intentional, though. It was always from, like, leaving OBS on.
Bossed around by anybody. I'm my own man. But I have a lot of people to whom I'm accountable because I love them. And I serve them. I mean, we all do. That's the joy of life, is the commitments that we have to other people. So what are they? Well, the first circle, in my concentric circle theory...
He is acting like Trump.
I think about my sauna, is your family. The people God put right next to you. By the way, not always the best people. True. You didn't choose them. I mean, sometimes they're kind of awful. You know, we've all lived with that. Mostly they're pretty wonderful. But it doesn't matter because they're your family. You didn't get to choose it. It's an obligation you were born with, and you got to bear up under it. You got to do the best you can. So your first obligation is to your family. And I know everyone was like cheering. Chris Cuomo was such a moron, obviously. And no, he's got a steroid problem and the whole thing. I got it.
Cozy.
But of all the things that you could fire Chris Cuomo for, and there are a million of them, faking his quarantine, lecturing us about masks while he didn't wear one, pretending, you know, Omicron was like more than a cold, whatever, the whole thing. It's ridiculous. But the thing they fired him for was family loyalty. That was actually what it was. His brother's a complete creep. He's a complete creep, but they're still brothers. I don't care what my brother did. I mean it. If he showed up and he's like, I need a fake passport to, you know, Buenos Aires, done.
What if you're just like, hey, Tucker, can you help me bury this body? Done.
Not because I agree with what he did, not because I want to break the law, but because he's my brother. That's my first obligation, my brother. I mean, that is your basic obligation, period. You can't get out of it, much as you may want to. And that obligation is the basis of your strength. There is something bigger than the government or Fauci or whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, fine, bark all you want, but it's my family. Like, the mafia were totally right about that. The Cuomos, they were. Everyone's down on the mafia, whatever, I'm not for the mafia.
The mafia was right!
Entirely. They did a pretty good job, let's be honest, but whatever. They did. there was no crime in Brooklyn. They did. And by the way, their lottery was much more fair than the one the government runs. I'm sorry, I had to get that out. It was. They actually paid you the full amount. They were like, we'll give you $1 a year for the next 1,000 years.
I know, right?
Shut up. You're scamming me. The mafia's like, here's the money. Okay. Anyway, but at the core...
Does Tucker work for the mafia now? Is that what I'm getting?
You can see why no one wants to have dinner with me.
I feel like that chat. Do you know why when sometimes like I'll be talking to you on stream, and I'll mention something like something that I'm pissed about, or like, you know, right? That's like, I mean, like not necessarily personal, but like it's like some reference to some other streamer or something like that. Like I feel like no one wants to have dinner with him. What did he just like? Did he call people to invite some? Like no one, like he couldn't get somebody to come to dinner with him, and like, and this is how he vents. Like I vent sometimes on stream, but like I mean, would I vent to like a political AstroTurf organization audience? Absolutely. The Joker laugh. Oh my god, he's laughing so he doesn't have to cry. Laughing so he doesn't have to cry. Yes.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yes.
But at the core.
Oh, are you okay, Tucker?
Of
Oh no, it's sad. He's Jokerfying. He really is Jokerfying.
At the core of the code is loyalty to your family. And that is your most basic. So like, they hate that. They hate that. They want you to tattle on your family. Ooh, your parents not wearing their mask? Call the Fauci hotline.
Ooh, did your brother kill someone? Call the police.
You know, I think I'll die first, actually, but thanks. I'll never do that. Like, that's the red line.
Is your uncle part of the January 6th insurrection?
For me. Okay, so outside your family is what? Your friends. The people you chose to be in community with. The people you chose to love. The people God put in your path. And you have a real
He can't get the blood off his hands. The stain.
Obligation to them. And if you're blessed, you know, you'll grow old with them. You know, you start when you're young, and then you'll wake up and you're like, damn, you know, it's like prostate exam time. And then like...
He's a little too excited about that prostate exam, I think.
Like, and then wherever that goes.
The thing I hate about Tucker Carlson is he try so hard to make himself look so serious, and he's just a fool.
And we know
what he's trying to do. I don't know. I mean, I think what he's trying to do is be more like Trump, right? In case there is a need for a replacement Trump. That's what he's trying to do, is fill those shoes, right? He's trying to be that stream of consciousness, unfiltered kind of dude.
It goes all the way to the end, and that's like, it's so poignant and wonderful. And if you have that experience, that was so vulgar, I'm sorry.
What was vulgar?
So now you know what my group texts are about with my college roommates. But that is one of the greatest experiences in life, is to share it with the people you choose to share it with. Those are called your friends.
That's what, okay.
These are not like randoms you like. These are like people you've made a commitment to. These are your lifelong friends. And you have to take that as seriously as you possibly can. And if they all want to get together for some stupid golf trip in Scotland every year and you can't really afford it and you hate golf, go anyway.
He acts like he's speaking to the people, and yet he's talking about a Scottish golf vacation. Fuck you, Carlson.
I'm serious, because you have a commitment to them. Okay? And after that are the people that you work with, who we often call co-workers, which is a phrase made up by some HR department somewhere, which I, for some reason, hate. Co-workers. Okay, stop. Guys I work with. The people at work. And if you have a job that you don't hate, you know, you hope you're working towards something that's worth doing. You're adding something, whatever it is.
He's used to speaking directly to Donalds. You can't break the habit.
I'm serious. Work is a huge source of meaning in our lives. And if it's not, you should do something else. And you should use the gifts that you were born with. You shouldn't waste your time on stuff you can't do. I could talk to you for hours about all the things I thought I could do and couldn't. And I was finally like, okay, let's do the one thing I can do. I can talk, I'll do that. And that's what I did. And that's true for every person. And usually you find that there's a massive difference between some things and other things. Some things you're really naturally good at and some things you're really bad at. You know, I can't add 3-digit numbers, never have been able to. Okay, it's fine. It actually hasn't, I just sort of gave up and, you know, whatever. Had a happy life anyway. I focused on the things that I like to do and that I'm good at, which are usually related. They're usually the same thing. If you really have a love for something, it suggests, it doesn't prove, but it
also feels like he's channeling Peterson.
Suggests that you have a natural aptitude for it. Do that. And if you find yourself doing that, you'll really find meaning in that and value. You know, everybody has something, this is also hokey, but it's totally real. Everyone has something to give. Like you've got this stuff inside you and you want to get it out. And you love the people around you and you love your country and you want to make it a little better. You can't save it. No one's in charge of it, but you can make it a little better for the people right around you, and you should. And that's called your job. And because that has meaning, you have an obligation to the people that you work with, even if they're kind of annoying. Why? Because they're in your path. That's why. So we spend way too much time thinking about people we will never meet, not that they're bad people, not that we shouldn't care about them. If there's a mudslide in Bangladesh, I'm sad about it. I mean that. I don't want anyone to be hurt. I hate natural disasters. All normal people do. But it's not my obligation to fix that because they're not in my path. So be very wary of people who are giving you long lectures about improving the lives of people they've never met while the people around them wither. Which is absolutely the model for so many of our leaders. And look, you're not entirely in control of your children, and good people have kids that go wrong or whatever, but if all your kids go wrong, maybe there's a moment when you're like, is there a moment of internal reckoning? And there probably should be. I don't want to blame anybody. I don't want to be judgy about it. No parent wants to judge anybody else's parenting because you know that there are factors that you can't control. Genetics for one thing. I mean, this stuff is very complicated. But that should be your major concern. And if that goes off the rails, like maybe you should spend more time dealing with it before you try and take control of a country and impose your vision on people who actually don't need your help. Maybe you should do that.
Oh my God.
But it's never that way. It's always the opposite of that. It's the people who have no interest in dealing with the problems that are right around them, that God put right in their path. It's like right in your face. Someone you love, you're related to, you're obligated to, someone you see every day needs your help, but you turn away to go help people you've never met.
Oh my God.
Maybe you're in this business in the first place because there's a huge hollow space inside that you can't fill. I mean, this is super mean, but I'm just going to say it. After 35 years in D.C., I began to wonder, why are all the politicians weird? And I don't mean weird like in how they vote. Some of it I agree with it, others I don't. But why are they weird like on the most basic level? Like what percentage of members of Congress go home to a happy personal scene? I'm serious. I mean, there's some. I think I met one in the 90s. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do think they exist. There are not a ton
God damn, how long is he going to talk? I don't know how much I can take of this.
There are not a ton of them who open the door and their spouse is like, I'm so glad you're home. Oh, I missed you. Kids run up, dogs bark, lick. There's not any of that going on, actually, for most of these people. There's just not. I'm sorry. It's true. I've seen it. This is a disproportionately unhappy group with barren, sad personal lives. And I mean, over 90%. So I'm watching this and I'm thinking, well, that's kind of weird. Because if I opened the phone book and picked 535 people, just completely at random, and put them in charge of the country, what percentage would have sad, barren personal lives? I don't know, maybe 40%. I don't know, depending on the year, tough year, 60%. It would not be 95%. It absolutely would not.
But you got pulled the 95% out of your ass, didn't you?
Not be.
You pulled it out of your ass.
It's just like that's
a really high number that I just made up. Yes, it is. That's true. That's an incredibly high number that you just made up. Good job, Tucker.
The laws of averages don't get us to 95%.
That's true. The laws of averages don't get you to 95%, which makes it even more of an ass pull. Good job.
So
you didn't even do a believable axe pull. Maybe 65 would have been believable. You did 95. You just fucking pulled that 95 out, that jagged 95 out of your ass. That must have hurt.
Clearly a connection between the sadness...
Clearly a connection between the imaginary number that I made up and something else that I'm not citing, and oh my God, Tucker, you're living in your fucking mind, dude.
Life that mean the most.
You are playing imagination.
The only things you will care about in your final moments, trust me.
Trust me, because I've died before. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Asshole.
The only things. The only things that actually matter. No, it's not your job. It's your family and people you love.
Do you have past life memories, dude? What the fuck?
People are all that matter.
What are you even talking about?
And yet the people in charge have the least of that. What the hell is that? And of course it's compensated.
Wait, did he even cite anything?
You can't have wise leadership from people with unbalanced
And
lives.
also, like, the people in charge are not good is, like, fucking not a spicy take, dude. Right wing thinks that, left wing thinks that. That doesn't really mean anything, right? You'd think that it means vote them all out. Let's get, let's good year for the challenger, bad year for the incumbent. But no, it doesn't even really mean that, because, like, then everybody, like, oh my god, Tucker, oh my god.
You just can't.
Chat, I want a sody pop.
You can't.
I want a sody pop, chat.
And it's not a matter of knowledge and what the data are. Okay. Got Google? I was about to say we could find the data, but of course they've all been hidden. Got DuckDuckGo? Anyway, but the point is, the facts are ascertainable. The question is, what do they mean? That's the question.
Actually, I don't know. Like, the facts are not ascertainable when you literally just make up fucking figures like that, dude. Like, I don't know. Is that how the facts are ascertainable? You mean you reach into your ass and pull out the fake statistic?
Question. So that's not a matter of knowledge, that's a matter of wisdom. So any
I don't think you have either.
intern can gather, like, the data.
The data? Oh my god.
But it takes someone who understands what's important, understands people, understands life in its full scope, understands we're going to be here next week, so let's think ahead to that point at very least. Understands that we're all going to go away and be replaced by other people. Maybe
or robots.
We should care about them.
Or robots.
It takes someone like that to make decisions based on that information. And that's exactly what we don't have. We've got a ton of people who are totally cut off because they live in a hermetically sealed, airless world where they're really, really worried about getting super sick, which I'm sympathetic to that.
I was just thinking that he really does feel like Jim Brewer here.
But that doesn't mean...
Is he going to start squawking?
That people who are 25 and at no risk at all should pay the cost for that. I get that you're concerned, and I respect that, and I have relatives in that position. I can't overstate how much I'm not mocking and how seriously I'm taking those fears, because I think they're grounded. I'm not making fun of anybody. We all have to decide, what we're afraid of and how we're going to respond to it. What I think is completely unacceptable is destroying the next generation of Americans because you're afraid. I think it's cowardly. I think it's disgusting. I think it's one of the great crimes ever committed. I do think that. It's totally...
Tucker has the power of imagination. He can just make shit up as long as he saw someone even more wild do it first.
Totally cowardly. It's totally... I'm 52, so, I'm more than halfway there. And I'd rather leave tonight than see my kids destroyed. Any normal person would. Any normal person would hesitate for 1 second. Not 1 second. Well, I could live another 30 years and play more golf. Or my kids could thrive. I'm going to just have to take the weekend to think about it. No normal person thinks that way. And if you're in charge of a country, you have to think of the country first. It's actually not about you. You narcissistic creep. It's not about you.
Garfield. Garfield. I've got some lasagna for you, Garfield. It's right next to this picture of you.
Oh, I'm so afraid. Okay, you're so afraid.
Something tells me Tucker's lying.
I don't judge you. We all have irrational fears. We all have actually some rational fears. There are things to be afraid of. That's all right. But you can't lead if you're afraid. That is totally disqualifying. Terrified people shouldn't be in charge of anything. Terrified people? So this is like the most obvious thing in world history. No country puts terrified people in charge. It's like there's no animal species that does that. Oh, the whimpering dog's going to lead the pack. That's a good idea. No! Whimpering dog gets to the back. He follows the big brave dog. Like, that's how life is. How far are you from nature that you think it's a good idea to put a terrified old guy in charge of Corona? What?
What is up with this thing? They've been trying to do this thing of the Biden is, like, wasn't Trump the one that was, like, hunkered down in the basement? Like, I don't know. They want to have this, like, and, like, yeah, granted, chat, I'm not a big Biden fan, okay? He's not a great candidate. He wasn't a great... It's not... I don't know. Fuck Biden, right? Yeah, sure. But, like, dude, like, this idea that you keep on trying to sell that he's, like, the more afraid than other politicians. No, he what? What? You're trying to tell me that he's got cognitive deficits after how many years of Trump? What are you even talking about, dude?
No, I mean it.
Ever asked the dog why it's whimpering?
So here's the upside. This can't continue. Nature writes the rules. We don't. And Joe Biden certainly doesn't. Nature writes the rules. Period. We're not in charge of those rules that are immutable. They apply to the Romans. They apply to us.
The Romans.
These are the laws of nature. We are subject to them whether we want to or not. We can't change them. We can't transition out of them. We can't identify as...
You can eat my...
as being exempt from them. Because they don't change. They don't care what we think. Nature...
Facts don't care about your feelings? Is that what you're trying to say in way too many words?
God is outside of our control. We can only respond. That's it. And we can respond wisely.
This is some Peterson. We're back to Peterson. We're back to Peterson. It doesn't have to be true. It only has to be true enough for you to survive.
But we can't pretend we're in charge of it.
He is doing Peterson. He's going to cry.
You spend the night in a snowstorm and you're...
He's a whimpering dog.
Boxers, you're going to die.
He sounds scared.
You can't identify as warm. It will kill you. No, it's true. So that's not like some crackpot right-wing theory I thought up this afternoon. Oh, I'm speaking of Turning Point. Better torque up the politics. That's like...
Better tighten up that tinfoil hat.
The truest thing there is. And if you forget that at scale... As a country... You know, it just doesn't work. It will never work. I don't care what... people with degrees on Twitter.
Oh, there's people with degrees. You have a degree, Tucker. Eat my...
telling you.
Graham cracker crust.
That's just not real. And it will snap back because it has to. If it can't continue, it won't, and it won't. So all you need to do is get as far away from these people as you possibly can so you can stay sane. I mean it. That makes a huge... I've done it. I'm not going to get into my weird personal life, which is totally not weird. The one thing I'll say about it is, like, I opted out of that. I don't want to be around that stuff anymore. And at my age, I'm just not going to be. I'm not going to be around that. I'm not going to be around it for one more minute of my life. And I have a flexible job, and so I'm not around it. I'm not around any crazy people. I'm around people who disagree with me. That's totally fine with me. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I don't mind being disagreed with. I'm not always right. I'm often wrong. But I definitely don't want to be around crazy people who want to wreck stuff. Absolutely not. I want to be around happy people who want to build stuff. And there are only two kinds of people. You're either creating something beautiful or you're tearing it down. That's it. That's it. You're either creating something beautiful or you're tearing it down. And all the joy in life is in creating something beautiful, whether it's relationships or children or your work product. That's the joy right there, is in making stuff. And hoping that it lasts. And if you're around people who are like taking joy and kicking it down or spray painting it, just move away. Like this is not a rational thing. This is a spiritual battle. You're not going to win them over through argument. You don't want physical conflict with them. That's horrible. Violence is horrible. I mean, I guess sometimes it's, unavoidable. But if you can avoid it, you should, because it's bad. You don't want to hurt people, Just get away. And now you can. You absolutely can. Not all of you can. Some of you are tethered to this or that obligation, or there are still places without internet service, I guess. But I look at these cities and I'm like, why isn't everyone living on the shores of Lake Superior in like an abandoned Finnish settler village? What, taking saunas every day and like looking out on the steely gray water and feeling happy. And yet they're in some like super depressing parking spot driving 20 miles to, why would you do that? And getting yelled at and flashing signs on the highway telling you to wear a mask or get your injection or whatever? No thanks. I don't want to be around that at all. And you shouldn't either, and you should run away. You will feel much happier, and you will see much more clearly. I mean, some of you have to deal with it, but some of you don't, and you shouldn't. It's a continental country.
What is this? Is there like a strategy to this? Okay, so you're telling conservatives that might be in urban areas, I guess the idea is that like their votes are kind of like not doing anybody any good right now. And what? Okay, I guess that's what it is. The cost of living are high in cities. People are moving out of the city to less dense places, you know, which in general have a lower quality of life, right? In general, you know, have less economic opportunity, you know, more difficult to get around. You do need a car, right? You don't have public transit. There's all kinds of factors like cutting against you, but yeah, it's cheaper, right? So a lot of people are doing it. Is the idea that he's worried that more lefties will move out than righties, and that they're gonna make the one of the red states blue? Is that the deal? And then so he's got to get the righties in the city, make sure that they're moving out too. Is that his deal? Is that the strategy? Is that what's going on? I don't know what.
The whole interior of the country has been abandoned. It's unpopulated. Take it back. It's your country. You can live there if you want. It's all right. And you should. And then I would recommend kind of waiting it out a little bit and build like a real community. I don't know, it's kind of nice to know the guy at the grocery store, or the ladies at the post office. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing, actually. It's a good thing. And the more of that you get in your life, the happier you'll be. And then you can wait for the dawn, which is coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's the dawn right there. Okay. We're done. We're done with this shit. Oh my god. Yeah, there we go. The trap. The Tucker Carlson trap theme. That's great.